What are the software architecture principles from the five leading experts? What are they? Hello, I'm Chris Athanas. I'm a KMP developer and I get an itchy head. Sexport said they're coming out later for that. They said they're coming out on Tuesday. Well, let's see. We're going to be listening. I'm going to be watching along to the software architecture principles from five leading experts from continuous delivery. I like this guy generally. Like he's more enterprise level. I'm more scrappy startup individual effort level. He's more corporatized stuff. So we'll just let him cook.
I think that on the whole, we software developers don't talk enough about software design, which is
I
rather
do.
strange, really, because ultimately that's what it is that we do for a living.
True.
Software development is about an awful lot more than merely translating a detailed set of instructions in English
Wouldn't that
or
be
another
nice?
human natural language
Wouldn't that be
into
nice?
a detailed set of instructions in code.
Wouldn't that
Software
be nice?
design is what makes it more. So what extra is it that we need to add? And how do we begin to approach this problem that is so difficult that we barely seem to be able to talk about it sensibly at all, let alone focus on it as the core of our profession?
Yeah, because it's but you're asking how to solve problems that you don't know, a general purpose, general case, how to problems. A lot of these things is just you kind of have to figure it out, and a lot of time you're wrong. That's the other secret. It's like, oof, you could be wrong, and that's what business don't want to hear that. They're like, what do you mean wrong? No, we're hiring you, the expert. You're supposed to be right all the time. You're supposed to have it all laid out for an logical conformity to be completely perfect. Yeah, but we're dealing with people, right? That's the thing. It was like, dang it. And people aren't all that way always logical. And a lot of things that we do are these exceptions all the time. We don't even notice it because we're human beings and this is how we operate. But the machine doesn't operate like that, right? So we're expecting the machine to do something that we're not even capable of doing. We're not capable of doing ourselves. So we can contain it, but there's always gonna be these exceptions, and that's always the pain in the neck is the unhappy path. Let's keep us going. It's got a cool
Hi,
logo.
I'm Dave Farley of Continuous Delivery. Welcome
It's
to my
Dave.
channel. If you haven't been here before, please do hit subscribe.
All
And if
right,
you
you
enjoy the
should.
content here today, hit
It's
like
pretty. I mean,
as well.
he's good.
Where
Good.
are the
Good ideas.
boundaries between software architecture, design, and code? And
It's all blurred for me. It's all blurred because we're dealing with people, right? It's not really the code and the architecture, or whatever. It's the problem we're trying to solve for a set of people, and getting it right for them that gives them value more than they are already doing it right now, and at least an order of magnitude more, so we can get a profit potential in there. That's the idea. I know it's really shocking to hear that we're actually trying to put other people out of work for doing our software. Now, this used to be not a taboo subject, but I guess it's a taboo. So it's like, no, we can only create jobs. Now we are in another way. Hopefully, that's the whole idea of the true capitalist system, not this crony capitalist thing. We're supposed to, get these costs down and use tools and technology at our disposal to free up human labor so we can do something else. But yeah, it's also been corrupted. So let's keep going, Chris.
why is design so often left out of the conversation?
Because it's the typey that he gets paid for, not the thinky talky. That's why.
It seems to me that I've spent pretty much the whole of my career focusing on and agonizing over the design of software systems at
As
all
well, you
different
should. That's our job. It's not the typey Cody. It's the figure outy, the problem solving.
levels of detail, sometimes at the level of whole massive systems, but more often at the scale of a few lines of code that are currently my focus right in front of me.
Yeah, it's all
Yet
the
we
same
don't seem to be
shit.
able to
It's all the same stuff. The computer don't give a shit. It'll go in a loop the whole time and just do 4 little sets of code. It doesn't care. It doesn't mind. It's us trying to make it do something useful for us. Yes, that is a complicated thing because we're complicated creatures.
do a great job of talking about the ideas that matter in these contexts. I talk about modularity, cohesion, separation of concerns, abstraction, and coupling. Bob Martin talks about solid. Kent Beck talks about Yagni and tidy first.
I mean, I like the Agni because we'll get in there because we get paid for the typey, not the talky. So the Agni lets us to go off on all kinds of tangents. It was a really big deal at one time because we just got in these corners. We'd be stuck into these corners with these projects. We're like, we're never gonna have that again. We'll cut them off at the pass by Agni, which means you ain't gonna need it. Which means that you're doing stuff that people didn't ask for. It means you're not actually applying the technology to a problem people want. You're applying a problem that you have, which is, a new framework came out. Ooh, React 29.
We have design patterns. Simon Brown has the C4 model for software.
Let's just receive that's C hacks. This should be called. This should be
about Yagni and tidy first. We have design.
This should be called C++ hacks that we all agreed on. And then if you want to be in the cult of C++, the pure cult, you got to learn, learn all that crazy stuff, which is a little repeated. They're kind of random. They all thrown together because that's how they were assembled. It was just some common ways people at the time, not these guys, other people, and these guys collected it and said, "Can we edit it down? And we're gonna make this a thing." And if you're not doing design pattern number 68, and people went nuts with this crap because the author said, "No, this is the way you do all software from now until the end of time." And it's like, oh wow, really? If I just use all these patterns, like you're gonna solve these complexity issues I'm having with my software design, because I'm not really concentrating on the problem. I'm concentrating on this the technique, the reason, the hammer. I'm looking at the hammer, going, so if I put more widgets on the hammer, it's gonna make me build a house better. It's like, yeah, but you're missing the point of the hammer. The hammer is to build a house, not to the hammer.
Design patterns. Simon Brown has the C4 model for software architecture. Eric Evans has domain-driven design. We have lists of admonitions.
I like Cupid. Have you seen Cupid? CUPID? Look that one up.
Like tell, don't ask, or don't repeat yourself, that we've added over the years. But often, quite a lot of the code that I see has little sense of design at all, really.
Yeah, because this isn't well distributed. People who pay attention to that stuff have already gotten stuck in the rabbit holes, and there's a whole bunch of people who haven't even looked past the rabbit hole they got stuck in because they built something and they added to it a little bit, and now they have this big crufty mess. They didn't think about how we're going to extend this damn thing or make it somewhat understandable. So when I'm fired from here because I can't implement the thing you're asking me, they bring in some experts who then look at this pile of crap and go, well, I guess we can try and extend it over here and repeat this thing. I was like, it's just a big mess, right? This is the majority of the software I've ever written and companies been involved with, is being this kind of stuff, where people come on board, they were super excited, they start typing the code without designing, understanding problem-y. They just start typing, and there's just looks very active, looks very impressive. There's code coming out, there's screens being shown. There's processes being run. There's people logging in, checking things. Yeah, but is it actually applying to the problem solving? Well, maybe, usually not. So people get stuck, and then they get fired or frustrated, and they don't even look beyond this architecture stuff. Let's keep going.
That talk about design are trying to address much the same problems. We're trying to find better ways to express what software design is really all about, what it's for, fundamentally.
It ain't this code shit. This is the tippy top of the iceberg, is the code. It's all this other stuff, how we communicate, how the work is split up, what work are we doing, who's it for, why, context, language, culture, religion, point of view. Are you the IRS, or are you are you a health code company, or are you some video game company, or what are you doing? So it's totally different things, and different customer types, different people involved. Who's the owner? Who's calling the shots? Who's gonna say no? Who's gonna cancel the project? Whose ass do I have to kiss? Or whose customers do I have to grab away from somebody else by offering something so much better that they can't deny it? Or that stuff. What do you do? Oh no, it's the source code.
Mostly, though, it seems as an industry, we'd much rather argue over whether object orientation is worse than functional, or whether.
Oh, it's all. These are all kayfabe. Here's an interesting take. I think some of these big companies push these messagings. No, those are all related, all put together. You have to do all of it. You can't do one or the other. Not one's better than the other. It's like sometimes this is used for something. Hey, you're gonna have to build a house with all screwdrivers. No, I don't build a house with all hammers. It's like, no, you use screwdrivers and hammers. What are you guys talking about? So I think a lot of this is kayfabe and tomfoolery, like COINTELPRO, MK Ultra on the development community to get people to argue about this stuff without avoiding the actual real thing, like IDE versus text. Come on. I think we're supposed to be arguing about this trivia stuff and avoiding the real thing, is solving actual problems for human beings. So I think a lot of this stuff has been and only the people that are really in the pits, they think this is important. It's like, no, you're going to use a text editor and an IDE. You're doing to use all of it. What? This is not. Everybody uses everything that needs to happen. If I need to use a screw, if I have to have a screw in front of me, I'm going to use a screwdriver. I'm not going to use a hammer. If I have a nail in front of me, I'm probably not going to use a screwdriver. I'm going to use a freaking hammer. If I have a nail, you know what I'm talking about. This is no. You can only use a hammer. I'm a hammer purist.
These are better than text editors. Just in case you're wondering, no, it's not, and yes, they are. Let me pause there and say thank you to our sponsors.
Yeah, you can do that.
The problem is that software design is difficult to talk about. It's a lot like writers talking about writing. We
Yeah.
can have a naive, narrow interpretation of writing in the sense of adding characters or words,
Right.
the literal act of encoding symbols. I think that this is analogous to what many people mean when they talk about coding. It's not
Right.
what I usually mean when I talk about coding or writing.
No, but this is so the people when they talk about coding, they're conflating a whole bunch of definitions all at the same time, and they're being vague about what they're talking about. So when people talk about coding, there's like medical coding, which is like taking the description of the whatever the drugs or malady is and putting it into a special code that's a lookup table somewhere else. So that's a human coding, and that's kind of a similar thing because we're taking someone's idea of what the problem is and someone's idea of what the solution is as well. Like there's like billions of problems and billions of ways to try to do something, and only some of them are actually going to be working. And a lot of them have been figured out. It's like how do you optimize that stuff or make it cheaper, faster, funner, all the things. So the coding part is like the last tiny tip of the iceberg. And boy, they make a big deal about it because it's the thing you can see, right? Because of this in this age of people like everything disappearing, the thing you can see seems to be the value, but it's really the tacit knowledge. It's really the tacit knowledge of the people coming up with the solutions. Right? First of all, identifying the problem that's profitable to even dick with, right? And then the second thing is creating a solution using a computer that can fulfill that solution to that problem that can be done profitably to make it so you can have a house and a car and send your kids to college. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Writing, though. There's another way to interpret these words. They represent the creation of some sort of sense, symbols organised with some meaning, the crystallisation of my ideas in the form of words or code. But it is their meaning and their utility that really matters, not the symbols themselves.
Correct.
So I can write words
Yes.
or code, and if I'm bad at it, or if I don't try hard enough, these may convey little or no meaning to the reader. Or, if I'm good at it, they may make my meaning absolutely plain to the reader.
Oh, but first of all, you have to have a reader. You have to have something that your reader is going to be interested in reading. And I tell you right now, if you have an interested reader, they will go through, and it doesn't matter how good your stuff is, like written. If they have something, they have to go through your thing to get to the thing that they want. They will put up with all kinds of stupid crap, man. I mean, come on, look at us as developers. Stack Overflow and the documentation on some of these APIs. We put up with a tremendous amount to get what we want, right? And there's other people out there too. But there's people who don't want to go through all that dicking around, and you have to do more work for them, and you'll charge them for that work if you can, right? If it's a problem worth charging for, and they find value in it, yeah. So you can be a sloppy programmer and still fulfill that stuff. So I don't know if I agree with that.
Spelling and grammar checkers.
But you have to focus in on their problem. Whatever it is, whatever organization, whoever the guy that's writing the checks and saying whether it happens or not, solving his problem. If that's the marketeer, that's the game you want to play. That becomes it, and it may not look like what you want it to look like from the outside. It may look like something else. It may look like having to bring the guy down to the strip bar and do coke off a stripper's titty and to get the deal done. It's ugly, right? That's ugly, but I'm sorry, that's America. That's how a lot of the world gets their stuff done. This is not pretty. This is not, but this is how it works, right? And a lot of developers are like, oh, stoop so low to do that. Well, then you're not going to be that. You're not going to be in that position to do that deal and wants that guy done that way. I don't know what to tell you about that.
Are the writing equivalent of our compilers and interpreters. They don't say anything about meaning. They only report on the basics of syntax, really.
Right.
They aren't going to tell me whether or not my writing is useful or entertaining or meaningful
Correct.
to the reader.
Only other people can do that. And yeah, you can like suggest like maybe that might work. I don't know. But until you actually put it in front of people and have them actually devour it, and of course you can lie to them. Well, lying is the major thing. If this is the whole thing people are doing, but if you could like not lie to them and still make money and still be profitable, I mean, wouldn't that be preferred? Should we be thinking about that? So this grift cycle that we've been on for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years or so.
Yeah. So stretching my analogy further, if design is the equivalent to this act of writing in the broader sense of conveying meaning, that means that design, like writing,
conveying meaning towards a problem, towards a solution. There's all kinds of books on meaning and poetry, and who cares? Most people don't care about that stuff. But if you can solve some problem for them, and you can do it faster, easier, cheaper, better, and lower cost, whatever, some other thing you're making it better for them. Yeah, that's what this is. Capitalism. This is America. This is what the whole world's all about. And there's always kinds of ways to do it. And most of it's alive lately has been dishonest. But if we can do it, maybe we can do it honestly. Can we try honesty? And that might be a market that hasn't been tried yet.
is in addition to and much more important than only laying out the correct syntax or spelling. Nevertheless, I'd say that coding is design in the same way that writing, other than the basics of inscribing symbols,
Right.
is writing.
You could have, I mean, you look at like L. Ron Hubbard, and most of his books are just slop, just garbage thrown out there, symbols on a page. It all makes sense. It all reads as English. Someone edited it for him, but it's garbage. It's just crap. It's just now every once in a while he had a gem that people got enthused at the time. But he also made a religion out of it. He tried to fool people even with that. We're to sell a piece of blue sky. All that crap. So like he scammed people, but some, he still wrote it. It still looked like English, but it was garbage. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So the whole thing is like getting something people care about, right? Providing some sort of value to people that improves their lives in some way and make it easier, more fun. All the things that humans want.
Writing also suffers from similar problems to software design. It's quite difficult to teach people to write or to design well. Some people seem naturally better at it than others, and some seem not even to see the basics very clearly.
Right, because a lot of what I've seen is people trying to solve an issue, solve a problem. Maybe it's creating a feeling inside someone. Maybe it's like people who like hone in on this thing and not just generally spewing out stuff and just in the general just to write. Some hyper dictator dictate, which means hyper talker, hyper reader, hyper writer. Yeah, I mean, but you have to hook into some human desire, human need, not just random symbols on a page.
Clearly. I think it's unlikely that only the naturally talented can succeed, though. So I assume that we haven't really found the best way.
It's not talent. It's fulfilling other people's problems. I know this is really hard to understand, but it's fulfilling other people's problems. Boredom, inspiration, curiosity. These are all human things that humans love to do. So it's like, if you can key into that somehow, people don't care about your writing style, whatever. Like, you're going to come out naturally because you're helping them out, because you've experienced something. You've gone up the mountain, you've going down with the thing, and you're trying to convey it to other people. What is that? What
is to teach these things yet? Another problem is that every writer or software designer thinks that they're great at it. In addition, software also adds...
You get a little bit of success, right? Because that's the success hierarchy, right? But eventually you'll hit a bump, right? Which is, okay, this whole problem, using your human power, will, to examine a problem that someone else has, not you. Someone else has this problem, and figure out what the problem is that looks like you have a solution that people haven't seen yet, and you put those two together. That's hard.
Several problems that make it harder still to do well. It has to work. In text, I can write all kinds of rubbish, and you can still read it, even if it isn't syntactically correct or spelled correctly or have correct grammar. But software has two consumers: us, the primary consumers who need to read and understand the code, and a computer which will process it, however messy and poorly designed. Yeah. So software needs to be functionally correct.
Yeah, software is mostly the psychological stuff of how humans, what human problem is, and what our particular solution is for it. And there's been some tropes and some memes around how we do these things, and lots of examples of how to try these things. A lot of it doesn't work right. A lot of it, some of it does. People love it, and if you can, there's been these patterns that have been developed over time, which, if you just got to the internet recently, you wouldn't see them developed, but they didn't look like this from the start. It was like, this is the evolutionary process of people trying all kinds of stuff and most of it not working, and then one or two winning, and everyone kind of following along that path. This is, and then but then there's also, we're coming to an age where we can hyper niche down into more niches and start fulfilling more people's problems. But we can't be thinking we're going to work at Google. I'm going to work at Google. I don't even want to anyway. That startup culture sailed a long time ago. The thing that people think Google is, they just acquire companies now. They're just a trademark, legal arm. Go after, sue people, and do mergers and acquisitions. They're not doing software development.
As well as readable in the way that conveys real meaning to human beings, and so allows us to continue working on it. Yeah. As developers, we don't consume software in the same way that we consume writing. So when someone says good software is readable, what does that really mean? Well, I agree entirely.
Okay, readable, and then there's understandable, right? Right? And understandable is very subjective, and it depends on where you're coming from. Were you on the team for like 5 years, or you just come in the last month ago, new hire, coming onboarding, and this is your first project like this? You've been doing something else before, and now you're tasked to do this because you're such a genius wizard. Yeah, those are all like the understandability factor gate is massive in software right now because of the craziness that's gone on with this churn of all these libraries and versions and frameworks and different styles of solid. You don't know what you know, Yagni.
that readability is vital.
that crap,
I'm pretty
man.
sure that we often
Insane.
interpret readability in different ways when we talk about software design in this way.
Readability and understandability. So readability, yeah, if you got, so the first gate is you got to go learn the code and the software, and not just the keywords, all these idioms about how people are using this stuff, because they'll use it in different ways. That are just, some of it's like, well, it's not standard, but this is how we do it at this company. It's like, okay, all right, we'll do it your way. I mean, that's a lot of that stuff.
Do we mean readable?
So it's not just the readability, it's understandability. It's like, and that stuff's usually not documented. That's usually tacit knowledge that can't really be written down. If we would spend 10 times the amount of time writing the documentation for what we're trying to make with the software than the writing of the software, if we were to try to fully document it. And business people hate this. They want us to be like interchangeable cogs. And that's why the corporate thing is kind of over for people like you and me, who, if you listened this far. For people like you and me, we got to go find our own problems and then solve them. And we might have to slog it out in some of these big corporations or companies for a while, but we have to have this goal in mind of not staying at them because they're just soul eaters
For writing, or
for
do you
this
mean
particular
readable
reason,
for...
where they want to make us into cogs, right? So then we just learn, oh, they don't really want our, we don't want, they don't really want our problem solving skills. They just want to tick the box and tick the tickets and make sure I'm got them in 2 week sprints. They don't really want to know how I can solve their development bottlenecks. They don't want to hear. They want to just hear like a box. So that's why it's soul sucking.
Software, do we just mean syntactically correct in the software? When I say
no, syntactically correct can be checked by the compiler. Now, come on, come on.
Readability, I mean readable as text. Ideally, a non-technical reader can infer what the software is doing, even if they may miss some of the nuance and detail.
Is this part of the budget they were given? Is because I've never seen this as a budget item to make it readable for the managers? That would be great. Then we'd actually spend time making this code readable, understandable, and maintainable. But that's not part of the budget, is it? The budget is how fast, how soon can you get this out? Because we're about to go out of business because we can't get round C of our funding because we burned through it, our marketing budget, doing coke off the titties at the strip club to get the deal done.
Now, this isn't a good guideline for every piece of software. Sometimes it makes sense for the code to be more code-like, but I think that a good guideline for good design is that my code is as expressive as I can make it.
What does that mean, sir? Okay, so I don't understand this whole expressive. It seems like we're not writing poetry. No. We don't want to make it expressive. Where is this? What is this? I'm writing expressive code that's expressing my inner essence. It's like, fuck that. Look, man, how do we get from the problem that people are having to the solution in the straightest possible line with all the things that people want people to do with the least amount of hassle, right? There's just one parameter, one thing I've seen a lot of people. They just want to put their thing out there, know that it's done, monitor it, and then finish it up when they're done and get out. They don't want to stay on your social media app. They don't want to do that. They want to do the thing, monitor the thing, and get out. So are we doing that? No way. We're expressing ourselves in a code. Like, stop. No. Practical, man. And I think this is part of his marketing. I can't tell. This is his marketing spiel, but he gets the marketing manager to go, oh, you mean I get to express myself in code?
And the ultimate in expressivity is that a non-technical person can read it. And this means that even a poorly skilled technical person can read it too and gather meaning. And
is this part of the budget? Is this the line item we're going to put in there? Because this is going to double our time to get this right. So triple. Do we have time for that? Is this part of the thing? Is that the part of the deal you made? No, is it how do we get this thing out quickly so we can go to profitability so we can do Ryan D?
And an expert can read it with almost no effort at all. This is my real goal. I like my software and my writing to be easy to read.
I would love to see some of these. Let's show some examples. I would still love to see this, but maybe he has some. I don't know. But a lot of this is very tacit knowledge, and he assumes a lot of knowledge in his domain. And I agree. And this is because he hasn't taken a break from software development the whole time. I did, so I was able to get a perspective on some of this stuff about how people see this. I was a massage therapist for about 6-7 years, so I got a different perspective on what people that are non-technical, or like when we say non-technical, I mean we're not non-technical, And yeah, this guy assumes a lot of tacit knowledge that just for other developers they might be able to catch on quickly or rapidly, but he assumes a lot.
Of course, this is subjective. This is at some level a matter of taste. But for example,
It's more than taste. It's about perspective and the goal and who are they actually going to look at the code? Is the manager going to look at the code? Because most of my managers never did. I wanted them to. Some of the best ones I had a couple early on that did, but the later ones didn't. What the fuck is that?
For this to this.
Oh, just an example. Okay, so this still assumes a tremendous amount of tacit knowledge.
It's stretching my definition of readable by non-technical people a little bit with these examples, but I think that they could get the gist if only I explained what rendered mean in the context of this.
Are they interested? They're not interested, man. If they wanted to know how the code worked, they would ask about they don't ask about that stuff. They want to see a demo of your thing, but they don't want to know how the fucking sausage is made. Huh?
This piece of code. My point here is that the structural parts are kept simple, and the words that I've chosen are descriptive. The other part of good design.
Whoa, that's really subjective as hell, man. Descriptive of what? Descriptive of what? You expect non-technical people to like go through and look at that code and expect not understand any of that stuff? Yes, if you went through it line by line in that moment, they would understand it. Are you asking them to go in there and edit it and change it, modify it, update it, delete it?
That seems absolutely fundamental to me is that good design maintains our ability to change the code.
Correct. And is that ever part of a defined project definition? I've never seen it. All I've seen is how fast can we get this thing out till we start making money on it so we can survive the RLC another 3 months. This guy lives in fantasy land. Well, I mean, no, he doesn't. He lives in a world where money is not really an issue. It's finding developers who can do this stuff and have some sort of methodology behind their madness. I think he lives in that kind of world. And yeah, and the world just tried to convince all us developers that they don't need us. So that should be like a little shot about what they think about. So we got 5 years before they think, maybe 10 before they actually get what they would desire with these artificial human being AGI bullshit, or something that's close enough to it to be for them that's not for them and they can get rid of us. Oh yeah, that's coming.
This is true at all scales and for all technologies. The technical quality of our system is defined by one thing, our ability to change it. So we have two ideas.
No, it's not. No, wait. Let me hear that again because I've heard something else.
Technologies. The technical quality of our system is defined by one thing, our ability to change it. So
our technical quality of our application is one thing, our ability to change it? No. I don't know where this guy's been living. Our app is the ability to get customers, get them to buy it, purchase it, have our salespeople sell it enough, or I'm selling it enough, so I've got customers on my site paying me monthly to keep it going and buying my upgrades, updates, and enhancements, and doing upgrades, updates, and suggesting new features and all that stuff. Not our ability to change it. Now, I would have loved to work at companies that had that as their priority. It's like, how can we make this stuff work so we can fix it when somebody comes in along and does X or something? We can fix it. It's never been that. It's always been, can you make it work with this new thing? As we got about 2 months left, and could you put this feature in because we'll get this sale that'll keep us afloat until we get funding for round D.
We have two ideas that characterize good design here: understandability and how easy it is then to change the code. Fundamentally, I'd argue that understandability, readability only matter to the degree that they're important to our ability to change the code. But for the purposes of today, let's stick to these two ideas as the principles that we're trying to strive for. Both of these ideas are fractal. They operate at all levels and scales of the system. Readable for the architecture.
What the hell does that even mean?
Architecture of a planet-spanning distributed system will take.
Are you making a planet-spanning distributed system? No, you're not. You're just trying to fix somebody's problem over here, and we may have it in this country. If we are successful enough, we may have a planet-spanning distributed system. What the fuck? Come on, man.
Take on a different meaning. But the goals, and actually mostly the techniques, are still fundamentally the same. We'd like to be able to find related concepts that change together easily, so that when we need to change things, how we change them is easily fits into our heads.
Okay, yeah, maybe version 3, after we get to profitability, and have a sustainable sales model that we can keep going for the next couple of years.
So that if we need to increase the capacity of the system in some way, all of the things that are related to increasing the capacity we're interested in are in roughly the same place, or at least
Yes, of
close together
course.
in the code.
Yes, this is
This is
obvious.
cohesion. When we change these things, we'd like to be confident that now our system has more capacity.
Right, but here's the thing: how do you convince? Okay, I've never heard of this guy, because this is probably a secret sauce. The secret sauce is having an expressive code for your developers. And that's his sales model. So I'm wondering how you convince the managers of all this stuff, like to revamp their system so it operates and is built in this way. When they have customers out who are doing it, and it's a clusterfuck and a half, they just want to fix what they already have. How do you convince them? It's like, hey man, you gotta throw all that shit away. All that shit's gotta get thrown away. You say so? You're asking, like, you're gonna spend $1 million to revamp and reproduce their whole system, or 2 million, or 5 million, or 20 million, and they're gonna sign on your check as to go through exactly what they just went through with these other developers, just to come up with no guarantees it's gonna be better than what they have now. Good luck on that sales call.
Hasn't stopped us being able to sell things, or that the planes that the system controls don't fall out of the sky. That's about modularity and separation of concerns.
Oh my
When we
God.
wanted to be able to locate those cohesive values that allowed us to increase the capacity of the system, we'd also like to have a way of finding them easily. That doesn't rely on us having to have
Right, but it's
a perfect memory of every piece of code in the
correct, but that means you have to break the problem down in this well-defined way. And well, that's the problem, not the code. The code is not the issue. The code is the problem is breaking whatever the thing is down into the little things that could be changed, and then knowing which ones are going to change. That's like you're a mind reader. So they want us to be mind readers now about how this problem may change or be changed, or want people to other additions that will happen to it in the future. Yeah, that's kind of what they want. It's like, dude, you're asking for stuff that's not actually possible. We can only just go along, and then when it's limping along, we can't do anything more. We take the hit and rewrite it. Instead of, we got millions of dollars in that source code.
system. So our system will be better if we adopt some conventions or consistency in terms of naming and maybe structure. We need a model for how we
Oh
are
my
going to
God,
organize
that's the least of it, man.
things that helps us when we have no idea what the thing that we need right now is called. Oh, it's available on the admin bus and it's part of the dynamics config service. Try searching for capacity dynamic config, or just go to the dynamic config service and take a look. Either will work. This is about abstraction and another form of
Yeah, good luck with putting a system together. Yeah, this is the hard part, is figuring out how to break a problem down into these systems, and then modifying, extending, updating, and deleting them. This is the problem. And business people want it all done in the beginning to cover all cases that may happen in the future. That's the agony, right? So this is why we get into the agony. It's like, okay, we're trying to make it so how to do all things for all people. So that means that product won't ship.
readability, the use of naming conventions. But these are the same ideas really that we use at the small scale in our day-to-day coding. At this larger scale, readability starts to take on a slightly more abstract meaning.
Okay.
But our writing analogy still stands here too. In books, we have chapters, sentences, paragraphs, indexes, and so on. These are tools to help us navigate the
Correct.
book, a different level of abstraction to when we're actually reading.
Yeah.
In software, we have services, layers, components, and naming conventions.
Okay, and these are all have different definitions for every company I've ever been at. Every company I've ever been at has called these things different. Every platform I'm on, every mobile platform, every web platform, all use this word in completely different ways. And you better know which context they're talking about when they talk about the thing. And even then, it has all kinds of meanings. Layers, okay, these have no meaning. There's no defined meaning. It's just a conceptual way to organize work. It has no defined meaning. This is just conceptual. This is just conceptual ways to break a problem down into little components. These aren't naming conventions. Dude, these are all different. Everybody does it differently. Classes, libraries. Dude, what's a library? What's a class? Is a class a library? Can a class be a library? Is a library a class? What's a naming convention? What's a component? What's a this is constant. He says it so like, oh yeah, these are just things everybody knows. Everybody just ignores them though. They don't know to pay attention to them. But everybody just knows what they are. It's like, come on, man. The stuff is not taught anywhere. They give you the syntax and they go, okay, we'll just go figure it out. It's like, because this is the problem. how do you conceptualize a problem for people that's better than what they're doing now, and then use the computer to apply a solution to that problem that's better than what they're doing now, cheaper, faster, all the things, and then do it so you can economically get in the middle of it, and it's not just a pet project. So you can have a house and a car and live a life with a family and all that stuff. You have to find a big problem or a very hyper niche problem that no one else is looking at. It's difficult. This is the hard problem, not this crap. Not writing the chapters and sentences. That's not that. Anyone that's read a book since age 3, 4, age 5 has known how a chapter works. Oh, really? Are these those sentences? No, it's like what the book is about and how you lay the information out, what order you lay it out, what you leave in and what you leave out, and what you focus on, what you don't focus on, what language you use, what culture you use. What does it color? Is it glossy? All that stuff is irrelevant to the thing you're trying to convey, which is the problem to solve and a machine to solve it. And then you paying me money because I care about your problem enough to make a solution for you. What the hell? This is not the issue here. Does it services, layers, components?
With helping us to navigate around a now much bigger and more complex space. These are the tools that we use to provide a higher level of structure to the systems that we build.
Yes, of course.
Allowing us not only to find our way.
It's just one way of doing it. It's not the way. It's not the only way. You could write the whole damn thing in assembly in one big fat line. If it solved people's problems, and you have a team of assembly language mavens who just love assembly language, let them use assembly language and solve the problem. You can do it profitably. And I think it may not be possible, but maybe it is. With these like reverse engineering guys, I guess maybe it is. You're a bunch of assembly language engineers. Okay.
Around, but also to communicate routes around.
And that doesn't use any of this stuff. That doesn't use any of this crap. But you're still providing value. You still have customers signing up for your services to do the antivirus or get rid of malware, etc.
To other people. I've long thought that the sign of a well-designed system and a good team is that if you ask any team member to add a new feature, they will answer with very similar solutions. Because the system has some structure. There's a natural home for each feature, a big picture model for how the system works, that the team all understand and rely on to help their decision making, as well as keeping the system nice and readable with bite-sized sentences of code. There are lots of systems.
Why is that important? I've never seen that to be important anywhere I've worked. They've been the most sophisticated, crazy to understand, mixed up, messed up. This is repurposed code from something else that was not quite what we're trying to do, but it was similar enough that the person thought at the time they could convert their code that they've been working on, their pet project, etc.
And teams that can't pass this test, but the good ones do. This gets us up to the last level of what I think of as the readability of a system. I want my systems to be easy to understand at this level too. I think that this is mostly about the stories that we're able to tell about our system to describe.
Correct. It is about the story. It is about the story. You have to bring them, like, hey, did you have this problem? Hey, I got a way to solve it. Hey, we're gonna use it. We're gonna use this tool over here that I've been working and honing my skill on, which I know about using. I know about how to use a screwdriver and a hammer. I think I can fix your little thing to fix your problem for you.
I've mentioned several times before on this channel that I like to use something that I call a whiteboard model of the system. The aim is to visualize that shared understanding. So
absolutely, yes, you must have that. It's crazy that people, and I've been in companies that try to get away with doing it without pictures. I'm like, hey guys, we gotta have some pictures and stuff. You can't just do, well, it's in the code. I actually had it as a response. I was like, hey, can we have like a diagram how all this stuff's put out here, so like, at least for me and you, we can discuss how these things are all laid. It's like, nope, it's in the code. Is there any design Nope, no design documents. We found that those were not that useful, and that was the team that left, and I'm the last guy here. So yeah, it's just the code. So go in the code, and poke around in there. This has been the real answer. This is really common. I'm like, so when he says we use diagrams to communicate information, it's like people are going, oh yeah, that's a good. I didn't think of that.
That any member of the team, certainly any senior member of the team, can recreate the whiteboard model on a whiteboard from memory. That puts a cap on the level of detail that can be in this model. And that's important. We want these things to be high level, abstract. These are a little bit like tourist maps of the system. They're not precisely accurate, but they are correct enough to allow us to do useful work. Right. These work really well for me, and I tend not to be too prescriptive about how you draw them.
Yeah, boxes line in my how to program from the ground up. I go in the design section, software architecture section. I've got a whole thing about the box, the line, and the boxes within boxes, and the conceptual layers. And yeah, we don't have to get all UML on it. We don't have to do. We don't do the Booch style. We're like, hey, this is a Booch method. No, it's not the Booch method. It's just lines and circles and squares within squares and label text labels, and we talk about it. And it's not going to be representative of the whole thing, but we can communicate a general idea so we can focus in on break the problem down. This is not
Whatever works is okay with me. A more formal take, but I think a very similar idea, is in Simon Brown's C4 model. Simon defines
okay.
4 levels of diagram: context, containers,
I mean, he has to do the C. It's the C4 method. You know, there's 4 C's in it. So this is like, okay, I get it, but this is you people. Look, man, I don't know who this is for, but this is just baby step style. It's like, of course you would put it in, you know, the C4 method. No, you just use, if inside this box is another set of boxes, and with layers and lines and connectors. We have, why do we do 4? We can do as many as we need. We can do 2. Can we do 1? Maybe we can just do 1. 1 would be good. No, we have to do 4 layers. There's always 4 layers. Like, come on, man.
components, and code. I do something similar. My whiteboard models are usually...
Yeah, every software developer does it innately. How else are you going to talk about this stuff? You're going to write code and you look at the code. No wonder that team left. They're like, screw this. No leadership. Hey, man, you got to do some graphs and stuff so we can do onboarding. And not just for that, so we can all communicate on the same page, because that code was a mess.
Mostly at the level of the containers in Simon's C4 model, but with particularly interesting parts of the component model being called out too, and then there's the code. This is the main whiteboard model for the LMAX system from when I was there. No doubt it's changed now.
It's the LMAX system. I hate this. Stop naming it systems. Just talk about the techniques. Don't stop naming it systems.
This is a mix of context and containers.
Stop trying to put your TM registered trademark on every damn thing. Just discuss it, to talk about it. It's not the Booch method. It's not the continuous delivery method. It's just, here's some ideas to play with. Do you have these issues, these problems? If you don't, then don't worry about it. Once you do, here's some solutions. I mean, here's some things we've tried before. There's some ideas about how to direct you that may or may not work for your particular use case.
And the most interesting part of the system was how the comms between the services work. So we also used this model to describe how messages were processed. I used to describe these models in some detail to everybody that joined the development team.
Cool.
And I used the first model to describe the system to anybody that was...
Probably put it on video now. Probably just explain it once. Or a couple times to get the pattern down, and then go show the video sequence on YouTube. No, I have to do a personal presentation to every developer. It's like, come on, man.
Interested in how our system worked. This model was also used, for example, to describe our architecture to the regulators in the finance industry. It was clear enough to be understood by non-developers.
Regulator in the oh, okay, that's why he's not really worried about cost. He's trying to make it readable for people. If he's showing it to the auditors, and they're making the auditors think that they understand the system by showing the code that's written in English, so they have no fucking idea. They're like, oh yeah, I see it there. Oh yeah, oh, it's very understandable. But he's like, they get it. I've written the code in such a way that they can understand what's going on. It's like, man, they don't understand. There's so much tacit knowledge that even the auditor, which he's got to tiptoe around the fraud and his shareholders about, oh, let that one go. Oh no, we're gonna do this one. Oh no, let that one go, because there's maybe other people involved in the finance industry that are doing things
to the extent that you could play scenarios through at this level when explaining how things worked, or when envisaging how to implement even complex new features sometimes. The tools of managing complexity aren't just about code, but are equally applicable at this system level too.
Well, no shit. It's mostly philosophy and incentive, intent, culture, morals, class, style, art, language, context, understanding who's the customer, who's paying for this, who's the decision holder, hierarchy. What?
Working to always keep our system easy to change forces us to think in terms of readability, and allowing ourselves a bit of latitude with what we mean by readability means that we can use these principles to guide our decision making at the biggest and most complex scales of all.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much for watching. I
hate the ending things that wraps it up all in a bow. Anyway, thanks for listening, rant along, and and puts a counter to some of these things out there, and also like some of this stuff is just like, really, this is you're doing this is revolutionary. This is it's like this other thing going on, and it's like, nope, it's just the code, and if you structure it with the way you want, maybe all your problems in development will be solved. I promise. Okay. Give me a like and subscribe. Go give them a like and subscribe. Continue. All right, I'll talk to you later.